Hello. In this video, we're going to start from the beginning. I will tell you a little bit about the materials you need to get started with crocheting, how to properly hold your yarn and your hook while you're working, and how to start out on your first project. So for yarn selection, there are so many different types of yarn that it can be very intimidating in the beginning. Yarn can be thick or thin, and it can be many different materials. Here I have a few examples of yarn that you could use for crocheting. First of all, I have this one. It may not be the best option to start out with because, as you can see, it gets thinner and thicker, and it has lots of different bits and sparkly bits to get stuck as you just start crocheting. But I want to use it as an example to show you what you can see on the label here. So on the label of most yarns, it will tell you the makeup of the yarn. So this one is a blend of wool, acrylic, and polyester. It will say the weight of the yarn, which this is a 50-gram ball, and it will also tell you how many meters or yards this ball contains. It will also tell you the thickness of the yarn. This one is labeled as a number 5 or bulky yarn, which is close to as thick as you can get. And it will also give you suggestions of what needles, knitting needles or crochet hooks to use. This one suggests an 8mm hook, but you could adjust that according to what you think is best, slightly smaller or slightly bigger. But it's always best to start with whatever the suggestion is on the ball. Here I have another very inexpensive option. I bought this at my local discount dollar store here in Canada. It's very cheap. It says it is a cotton blend, so that probably means it's a blend of cotton and some sort of synthetic like acrylic. So to start out, this is a perfectly reasonable option. Just something cheap to get you started, just to try it out and see if you like it. It will give you the care instructions, tell you how to wash it once you finish creating your project. So this is a perfectly fine thing to start with. To show you something a little bit on the higher end, in my opinion, of yarns, in terms of mainstream brands, I have this ball. This is what's called a skein. You would have to unwind it and wind it up into a ball of yarn before you start knitting with it or crocheting with it. This one is made by Noro, which is a Japanese brand, and it is made of 60% silk and 40% mohair. So this is a little bit of a finer yarn. This would be fine to crochet with and to learn with, but it's a little more expensive, so it may not be the best option for someone who just wants to try out crocheting. But I do love how this one feels. You could also go to more local yarn stores, and you could find this one I bought in one of my travels in South Africa, but you could find something like this in any country. This is handmade from an alpaca farm. So it's 100% alpaca yarn, 50 grams, and it gives you the instructions. And this is also it's a lot thinner, so this would be maybe a fine or ultra fine, maybe a sock yarn weight, but also a fine option to use. Crochet hooks also come in a lot of different sizes and shapes and materials. Here I have a few different ones for you to look at. So it's important that the size of your hook is paired well with the thickness of your yarn. But as for the material, that's just a matter of preference. A lot of people will recommend investing in a nice hook with an ergonomic handle that's maybe something squishy and plastic to hold. But I wouldn't really worry about that. I've been crocheting for years, and I'm always fine just using some more basic, cheaper, more inexpensive hooks, either in bamboo or in metal. I don't love the cheap plastic ones, but pretty much every crochet hook is pretty usable for learning. If you do want more recommendations for more expensive hooks, I'm sure you can find plenty of reviews online for different hooks. For this worsted weight acrylic yarn that I will be using, I'm going to be using this size 7mm hook. Maybe this is a little bit large, maybe you'd want to use maybe a 6mm or smaller, but for our purposes, I think this will show off nicely in this video for you to follow along. I believe a 6mm hook will be, in US terms, a J size hook, but so you can see there's different sizing methods. Because I'm Canadian, I usually use metric to talk about hook size, but then I use American terms to talk about yarn thickness. But I will use them interchangeably. You can again look this up online if you need a simple chart for seeing the different hook and yarn sizes conversion. So I'm going to be using this bamboo 7mm crochet hook. So let's get started. Almost every project that you do in crochet will start with a simple slip knot and then some chain stitches. First, let's see how to tie a slip knot. So begin by finding the end of your yarn. Sometimes that will come out of the center of your ball, or sometimes you might want to use it from the outside of your ball. It doesn't make too much difference. So first find the end of your yarn. Then you want to make a loop with your yarn. So just a simple loop like this. Or maybe sometimes I say that it looks a little bit like the number 4 with a very long tail coming out. So you make the loop, and then we want to reach through the loop with our thumb and our forefinger, grab the leftover yarn and the tail, and pull it through just like so, and pull it nice and tight. To get the knot out, you can simply pull on the ends and it will come out. That's why we call it a slip knot. So I'll show you again. If you make your loop like this and your yarn comes all the way through, you'll end up with a regular knot. To fix that, just make sure that you keep a nice long tail on your loop. So let's try again. I'll make a loop, then I reach through with my thumb and my forefinger, pull it through, and pull it nice and tight. I'll show you one more time. Make a loop, pull it through, and nice and tight. So now we can take our hook and place it through the loop and pull the ends to tighten it around the hook. You want it to be tight around the hook, but still loose enough that it can move back and forth very easily. There might even be a little bit of space there in between the hook and the yarn. Before we get started actually making any stitches, you're probably wondering how to go about holding your hook and your yarn. I'll show you how I hold it, but there really isn't any one correct way to hold them. So you should just do what feels right for you. It'll probably feel a little bit awkward and cumbersome at the beginning, but after doing a few stitches, you'll probably get a feel for it. I hold my hook a little bit like you would hold a butter knife. Just like this, very simply. Some people hold it more like a pencil, but I prefer it just like this. Make sure to hold it in your dominant hand, because that will be the main hand that you use for crocheting. The main thing is that you want to be able to rotate the hook to face up and face down, and to get a nice range of movement on that. To hold your yarn, start by laying your yarn across your open palm, like so. Then close your pinky and your ring finger. These fingers are going to hold your yarn in place, and help with the tension and guide it through your hand. Then you want to point this finger, your pointer finger out, sort of like you're making a finger gun. Then rotate your hand around so the yarn is around your finger. So I'm still holding it with these fingers, and this finger will help to guide the tension. When we actually get to working, I hold it nice and close to my work, and my thumb and my middle finger will be holding my work like this. So this finger can create tension by holding it back or forward, and these fingers will always guide your yarn. And then this hand will be able to rotate up and down while you're working. Great, so now that you have your yarn, your hook through the slip knot, and you know how to hold the yarn and your hook, now you're ready to make your first chain stitch. So chain stitches are the foundation of almost every crochet project. To make a chain stitch, hold your yarn in your hook, just like I've shown you. And I want to hold my work, just the base of the slip knot, with my thumb and my middle finger. So to start the chain stitch, you want to start with your hook facing downwards and guide the yarn over the hook, just like this. So show that again. The movement here should be coming from your non-dominant hand that is holding the yarn. And once you've done that, it should look like there are 2 loops over your hook. So now we're going to pull the yarn slowly and carefully through the loop. And then you end up with 1 loop left on your hook. Let's try this again. So sometimes I start with my hook facing up. I put my yarn over, hook faces down, and then pull it through the loop. Let's do this again. Yarn goes over, hook faces down, pull through. Most of the second movement should come from your dominant hand, and the first movement comes from your non-dominant hand. So yarn over with your non-dominant hand, rotate down with your dominant hand, and pull the hook through. I'll show you a few more times. So remember, if you ever mess up and you want to go back a few stitches, you can always take your hook out and simply pull the stitches out. Be careful not to do that by mistake, but in crochet it's very forgiving. You can always pull out your work and start again if you need. So we go yarn over, through. We're going to start with a chain of 20 stitches. So let's get 20 stitches here. If you want to count your stitches, if you've lost count like I have now, you can go back and just have a look how many loops are on your chain. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I just need to do 10 more to have 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you have a chain of 20 stitches. So now you've completed 1 chain row. In the next video, we're going to be able to start crocheting back along this chain to start creating a project. So as you can imagine, the length of your chain row will determine the width of your final project as you work up this way. Some projects would also require you now to join your work together in a circle, in which case we would crochet around and around in a circle. You would do this for socks or hats or anything that's cylindrical in shape. But for now, for our purposes, we're first going to learn how to crochet in a straight line across. So now you know how to hold your yarn and your hook, how to tie a slip knot, and how to make a chain stitch. We'll see you again in the next video to learn how to do the single crochet stitch. Thank you very much. In this video, I will introduce you to your first basic stitch, the single crochet stitch. In crocheting, there are 4 main crochet stitches, 2 of which are far more common than the others. The stitches are single crochet stitch, double crochet stitch, half double crochet stitch, and triple crochet stitch. I will walk you through doing the stitch step by step a few times, and then you will watch me slowly do a couple rows, building off of a chain just like the one we made in our last video. And we will learn how to do our first 2 rows of single crochet stitch here, just like this, which will create quite a dense fabric that can be made to make lots of thick, warm items. Here I have my 20 stitch chain as we made in the last video. In this video, this chain I made with a slightly smaller 4mm hook because I kind of like the way that this single crochet stitch looks with a smaller hook. It will make fewer gaps in between the hook and will be a solid fabric that we make. So to make our first single crochet row, we're going to be working back along the chain row that we made previously. The first row is always going to be the most difficult, so bear with me. And once you make it through the first 19 stitches of your first row, it will be a lot easier going forward. So let's take a closer look at our chain stitches. You can see that each chain we made created a little V, or a loop. And it's through these loops that we're going to be working our first row, just like here, here, and here. So now let's get started. The first stitch in the first row was going to be worked through the second stitch in the chain. So that's going to be this one here. So remember to hold the yarn and the hook, just like I showed you. You can now pinch your work through your middle finger and your thumb. So the first step is going to be, we look at our loop here, we push our hook from the front to the back of that chain. And here you can see it looks like we have 2 loops over our hook. Next, we're going to pull the yarn over the hook, just like we did for a slip stitch. And now it looks like you have 3 loops over your hook. So next, we pull the hook and the yarn we just put over it through just the previous loop. So now again, it looks like there are 2 loops over your hook. Next, we're going to pass the yarn over the hook again. And then, so now there's 3 loops. And then finally, we're going to slowly and carefully pull our hook through both of the loops. And there, you've completed 1 single crochet stitch. And you're left with 1 loop on your hook. So let's try again on the next chain loop. So you can see this is the loop we worked through. And now we're going to work through the next chain loop, which is right here. So we're going to put our hook through the stitch. So you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, so you have 3 loops on your hook, pull through 1 loop, so you're left with 2 loops, yarn over again, and pull through both loops. And that's 2 stitches complete. So let's do this a few more times out loud. Put our hook through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Our hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Next one, through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Next one, through, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Through, yarn over, through 1 loop, yarn over, 2 loops. Through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Let's just complete this row here. So here we're on our last stitch. Hook through, yarn over, pull it through. It's a little bit tricky, this one. Yarn over again, and pull through 2 loops. So now we've completed our first row of single crochet. So here it's probably a good idea to go back and count the stitches that we've just made to make sure that we made a stitch in every single loop, so your work will be consistent going forward. Especially when you're just starting out, it's very easy to miss one of your original stitches, or maybe even make 2 in the same stitch by mistake. And going back and counting will also help you recognize what your single crochet stitch looks like. So as we look back at the row that we just made, we can see that every stitch I just created a little V on top of the work. You can see all of these V's on top. So it's those V's that we're going to count when we count our stitches. And it's also going to be what we use in the next row to create our next row of single crochet. So remember that we started with 20 chain stitches, but we started making our stitches on the second stitch of the chain. So now we should have 19 stitches. So let's count. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 right at the end there. Okay, so if you don't have 19 stitches here, you've probably missed a stitch or added one somewhere. So if you want, you could just take your hook out, undo that row, and start again until you get it right. But if you're happy to go on now, we're going to learn how to begin our second row. So at the end of every row of single crochet, we need a way to go up in height to start the next level of stitches. So to do that, we're going to make 1 chain stitch. So we put our yarn over the hook and pull it through. And that creates 1 chain, which you can see now we're able to go back along the row. So to do that, we're going to physically turn around our work. So we're working in the same direction all the time. And in this row, we're going to start on the very first stitch, which you can see if you look for the V right here. So now, in order to make our stitches, we're going to put our hook through and underneath both loops on top of this stitch, or across the V, if you will. So here's our first stitch. I'm going to put my hook through. So you can see the V is almost like two separate threads on top. So we're going to do it just like we did in the previous row. So I've put my hook through, yarn over, and pull it through. So now we have two loops on top, yarn over again, and pull it through. And then you've completed your first stitch on your next row. So let's finish this row together. So the next stitch is here. You can see the V on top. Hook through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, and through the two loops. In, yarn over, pull through. I'm going to complete this one. You can watch as we go. So here I am at the last stitch again. It's always a little bit tight right at the end, but you want to make sure to go all the way to the end, or else your row will get smaller and bigger as you go along. So there we go. Now we've completed our first 2 rows in single crochet stitch. So with just this technique that you've learned, you could go out into the world and you could confidently make something. You could keep going with this and make it into a scarf, or you could start with a much longer initial chain row and you could make a blanket, or you could make just this one into a square and then make a blanket out of many different colored squares. Or there's plenty of other patterns out there that only use the single crochet stitch. But if you stick with me, in the next video, we're going to learn how to make the next fundamental crochet stitch, which is the double crochet stitch. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Welcome back to part 3 of my crochet tutorial. In this video, you will learn how to make the second fundamental crochet stitch, the double crochet stitch. Here we have the single crochet sample that I made in the last video. This piece is 3 full rows of single crochet. And here I have a double crochet sample that you will learn to make in this video. It is also 3 rows high. If you look closely at the stitches, you can see that the double crochet stitches are called double crochet because each stitch is double the height of a single crochet stitch. Fabric made from double crochet is much less dense than fabric made from single crochet, and you will see that there are bigger gaps in between each stitch. It can be used for many different purposes, as we'll discuss later. Let's get started making our stitches. Here I have a chain of 20 stitches again. Just like in single crochet, we're going to start working at the second chain in the row. Remember, this first row that we do is going to be the most difficult one, and will get much easier once we turn our work. If you have difficulty at all, I would recommend going up a hook size, which will make it easier for you to navigate the stitches. Let's get started on our first stitch here. So for double crochet, we start by pulling the yarn over our hook, which gives us 2 loops over our hook. Then we insert the hook into the second chain from the front to the back. This will give us 3 loops on the hook. And then pull the yarn over to give you a 4th loop on the hook. We're going to pull this yarn over through just the first loop, bringing us back to 3 loops over the hook. Then we yarn over again, back to 4 loops. Pull through the first 2 stitches this time. Just 2, and keep that last one on. That gives you 2 loops on the hook. Then for the last time, we yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And that's 1 double crochet stitch. So let's do this again. We yarn over, insert into your next stitch, yarn over again, pull through the first loop, leaving you with 3. Then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And again, yarn over, insert into the stitch, yarn over, through 1 loop, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops. Yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, sorry, got a little tight there, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over, through 1 loop, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over, through 2 loop, sorry, through the first loop, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops. Feel free to pause or rewind the video to watch those stitches again. I'm going to finish the row here if you want to keep watching. Yarn over. Here we are in our last stitch on the row. We're going to do it again. Yarn over through that last loop there, the last stitch. Yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops again. And there you've completed 1 row in double crochet. So now at the end of the row, we're going to need to bring the yarn up to start working back in the next row. Because double crochet is taller than single crochet, this time we're going to chain 3 stitches at the end of our row before we turn for the next row. So let's chain 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then we turn our work around. And now we're ready to start our second row. So some people will tell you to start in the second chain, in the second stitch, sorry, in the row. But I like to start in the first stitch and just ignore this first chain that we did. So again, yarn over. So remember here we have our V's on top of the stitches, and that's what we're going to use to go into for the next row. So we're going to go underneath that first V for our first stitch, and then yarn over, pull through that loop, and you're left with 3 loops. yarn over, pull through 2 loops, you're left with 2 loops, yarn over for 3 loops, pull through to leave you with 1 loop again. And we'll do that this whole row. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over, insert under that V, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. And let's finish up this row. And here we have our first 2 rows of double crochet finished. So there you have it. With single and double crochet that you've just learned, you can make most patterns that are available out there. You can make scarves, blankets, and washcloths are all good places to get started. I suggest watching these videos several times until you're comfortably able to make these stitches on your own, and then you'll be ready for the next technique that we're going to teach you in the next video. Thank you, see you soon. All of the skills we've learned so far are for creating a straight square or rectangle. But what if you want to make a triangle, or a circle, or something a little more three-dimensional? Well, in this video, I want to talk a little bit about how to give your crocheting more shape. We will learn 2 new skills for creating different shapes for your work. We will learn how to join your work in the round to create a cylindrical shape, and how to decrease the number of stitches in a row so that you can make your work get smaller as you work. I will teach you these 2 main skills by guiding you through a finished project, a hat, just like this one. This one is to fit an infant's head, but it can easily be adapted to fit a child or even an adult. It is made entirely of double crochet stitches and will help us to learn the skills we need in order to create many more projects going forward. Let's get started. Once again, we're going to be starting our project with a row of chain stitches. This time I have a chain here of 40 stitches. So you just need to make enough chains to fit around the circumference of the head that you're making the hat for. So this is going to be quite a small hat for a small baby, but you could make it bigger if you wanted it to fit a larger head. Just make sure to make your chains quite loose so it will stretch over the head. You don't want it to be too tight. You could even use a larger hook to make your chain row and then switch down to the hook that you want to use for the rest of the hat. So we have a straight chain, but we want to join it around into a circle so we can work around in a cylindrical shape. So to do that, we're going to go back to our first chain right by our slip stitch here, and we're going to put it back. So we want to make sure that you're not going to be twisting your stitches around. Maybe run your fingers over to make sure you have it the right side, and just put that first chain back onto your hook like this, and then you simply pull your last chain over the first. Just as simple as that. And now it's connected into a circle so that we can work around to start building the hat upwards. So now we're going to begin our first round. We call it a round rather than a row when we're working around in a circle. So I'm going to start by chaining 3 to bring it up to the first round. 1, 2, 3. So now we'll start our first round in double crochet. So here I'm going to go into my first stitch here, just right over here, and that's where we're going to be working. Okay, we're going to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, through 1 stitch, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops. That's your basic double crochet stitch as we learned before. So we're just going to work our way all the way around. So yarn over, insert, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. As you can see, we're just going to work our way all the way around the circle into every single stitch. If you started with a chain of 40 stitches, you should end up with 40 double crochet stitches at the end of this row, this round. And here we are at the last couple stitches of the round. Just want you to see how I finish it off. And the last one here, and I'll insert the front to the back, through 2 stitches, through 2. Okay, so now we've worked into every single stitch around, and now in order to join it together, you see we've got a little bit of a gap here. So the very first, where we chained 3 at the very beginning of the round, we're going to insert our hook into that chain there. And usually I will yarn over and slip through that and slip through that stitch. So you've just slip stitched into the beginning in chains. And there you've completed 1 round of working double crochet in the round. So now we're gonna just continue along. So to start the new round, you go up 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and now we're ready to start the next round. So you're just gonna yarn over, insert into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through, and complete your double crochet. That's your first stitch. So we're just going to do the exact same thing, going all the way around. So some people count that first chain 3 as their first stitch. But for this project, I think it's less confusing to just simply ignore that first chain 3 when you're counting your stitches. And every time we'll just work into the first stitch and ignore the chain 3 space at the end. So I want to finish up this round, and I'll show you again how I end it before we go on to finish the hat. So here I'll show you the last 2 stitches again. We're almost finished the second round, but here we've got 2 more stitches to go to complete our round. Last stitch, double crochet, there we go. So remember, to join together, we're just going to go into this chain here, yarn over and slip through both of those stitches to connect it. Okay, so here we've completed 2 rows. Remember, again, you can go back and count. Here, I'll show you counting our stitches. Just remember, don't count that first, those are just chains. You see we've got chains in the first row and the second row. So I'm just not going to count those as stitches to give ourselves a nice even 40 stitches. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So we still have the same as the number of chains when I started. That's good. So now to start our third row here, we'll do the same thing as before. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then just again, we'll start double crocheting in this round. Okay, so that for this baby hat, I believe I will do about 5 rounds, just straight double crochet. So we've already done 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and complete 3 more rounds to bring us up to 5. And then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna finish off the hat at the end. So I'll see you at the end of these 3 rows. Okay, so I completed 5 rows, and then I decided that it looked a little bit too short, so I decided to make 1 more and make it 6 full rows of double crochet. I did it just because I prefer my hats to be longer rather than shorter, because you can always make it a little bit of a slouchy hat, but if it's too short, then it's not going to cover your ears. For an adult hat, you're probably going to want to make at least 10 rows of straight double crochet, or a little bit longer if you want it to be slouchy. So now we're at the point of the hat where we want to start to go inwards to close off the top. To do this, we're going to have to do what is called a decrease stitch, or sometimes called crochet 2 together. So for the first round of decreasing rows, we're going to make 3 double crochet, normal double crochet into each stitch, and then 1 crochet 2 together. And we'll repeat that, doing 3 double crochet and then 1 double crochet 2 together. Okay, so let's start by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we will crochet into the first 3 stitches. First double crochet, second double crochet, third double crochet. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to double crochet 2 together. So to double crochet 2 together, we start very similarly to double crochet, yarn over, insert our hook from the front to the back of the first stitch, then we yarn over again, pull through that first loop, that stitch, yarn over again, pull through the first 2 stitches, loops, sorry, and then yarn over again. And then instead of pulling through those last 2 loops, we're going to insert into the next stitch. Then we yarn over, pull through that stitch. So we have 4 loops on our hook. And then we yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over. And now instead of just pulling through 2, we're going to pull through all 3 loops. There. So now you can see that we went through 2 stitches, but we only ended up with 1 V on top for the next round. So those 2 stitches have now become 1 for the next round. So we're going to be repeating that around this whole row. So let's do 3 normal double crochet again. 1, 2, 3. And now let's do another double crochet 2 together. So yarn over, insert into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Okay, now we're going to do 3 normal double crochet again. 1, 2, 3, and now another double crochet 2 together. So yarn over, insert into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over, and now through the next stitch, yarn over through that stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 3 loops. There, and we'll keep going around the row doing 3 double crochet and then 1 double crochet 2 together into the following 2 stitches all the way around. And then by the end, since I started with 40 stitches, I'm going to be decreasing 8 stitches around, so I'm going to end up with 32 stitches at the end of this round to do in the next row. So here we are at the end of the round. I just have 2 more stitches left. I just did 3 double crochet. So let's double crochet these last 2 together. Double crochet, pull through 2 loops, pull through the last 3 loops. So now we just need to join back with our starting chain. Let's go in here and chain those together. So you can see we've already started, the hat's already a little bit tighter at the top, which is what we want. So since I started with 40 stitches, I decreased 8 stitches around, and now I have 32 stitches around. So for our next row, or next round, let's chain 3 to get up to our next row. And now we're going to be double crocheting 2 normal stitches and then double crocheting 2 together. So we just want 1 fewer than the previous round because we want to be decreasing the same amount. That is 8 stitches all the way around. So this time we do double crochet, and then double crochet 2 together. So let's try that. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, now double crochet 2 together. So yarn over, insert into the first stitch, yarn over, back through that stitch, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through the next stitch, yarn over, back through that stitch, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 3 loops. And we're just going to be doing that all the way around. So 2 double crochet, 1, into the next stitch, 2, and now double crochet 2 together. Yarn over, through that stitch, yarn over, back through, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through into the next stitch, yarn over, back through, yarn over, 2 together, yarn over, 3, all 3 of those. And now 2 double crochet, and then double crochet 2 together. And we're just going to be continuing this way all the way around until we get to the end. So here we are at the last 2 stitches of the row. So all we have to do, I've just done 2 normal double crochet. So I just have to double crochet these 2 together. And here we are, completed that row. And now we just need a chain to that starting chain, and then we're ready for our next row. So we've just decreased another 8 stitches, so now we should have 24 stitches. You can see already how this circle is getting smaller at the top because we're trying to close it off. So now we're at 24 stitches, so let's start our next round. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're ready to start our next round. In this next round, we're going to be just double crocheting into the first stitch and then 2 double crochet together, or double crochet 2 together, sorry. Then we do the next stitch and then double crochet 2 together. And we'll continue in that pattern, same as we've been doing. So let's double crochet into the first stitch. And now decrease, double crochet these 2 together. 2. And then double crochet 1 again. Double crochet, and then double crochet 2 together. Double crochet 1, double crochet 2 together. Double crochet 1, double crochet 2 together. So here we are at the end of this row. We just have our last double crochet 2 together. So let's do that. Through 2 loops, through our next stitch over here. 2 loops, through 3 loops. Right. And now I'm going to slip stitch to end this row. And here you can see we're almost completed the entire hat. We just have a little bit more to close up. So this next row is going to be our last round. So let's bring it back up. 1, 2, 3 slip stitches. Okay, and now in this last row, all we're going to do is double crochet 2 together in every single stitch around. So let's start. We're going to double crochet. So yarn over, insert into the stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over through 2 stitches, yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over back through that stitch, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 3 loops. And so now instead we're not going to do any more regular double crochets. We're just going to double crochet 2 together all the way around. So again, double crochet 2 together. And through these 3 loops. And again, double crochet 2 together. Yarn over into the next one. Through 2 loops. Yarn over through the next stitch. Through 2 loops. Through 3 loops. Okay, just a few more times. Double crochet the next 2 together. You'll feel that the hat is very tight at the top now as you do this. And the next 2 together. Next 2 together again. Now we're about halfway through. We're almost done actually. 2 together. And I believe twice more. Let's double crochet these 2 together. Double crochet together. And yeah, this will be our last one. 2, yarn over into the last stitch, yarn over through that stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 3 loops. Okay, so in that last one you should now have 8 stitches together, and for the last time let's chain through the starting chain. And you can see here that we still have a little bit of a hole at the top. What we're gonna do, so now we've finished the project, essentially. We've finished the crocheting part of the project. See, we've got a hat here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna leave a bit of a tail of yarn and take some scissors and cut the yarn. And now, to end off our project, we're gonna take the yarn and pull it through that last loop, all the way through. There. So now, when you pull the yarn, it won't come undone. In order to close up that last hole, usually I don't make hats like this because it's not ideal. What we're gonna do, we're gonna take the yarn and slip it all the way through, sort of like we're sewing, all the way through every single stitch. Just weave it through from the outside to the inside. Should have 8 stitches at the end here. What we're doing is that we're going to weave it from the inside to the outside. Sorry, from the outside to the inside of every stitch, so that then we'll be able to pull it tight like a drawstring. I think I got every stitch here. Let's do that starting chain as well. And now we should just be able to take the end, because we've weaved it through every single stitch. We should just be able to pull it tight so that that hole gets pretty much closed up. It's okay if there's a little bit of a hole, as long as it's the same size as the rest of your double crochet. There. So now you basically have your hat completed. As you can see, when we finish a project, there's always a little bit of work left to be done. We have the starting yarn over here, and we have the ending yarn over here. So what I like to do with the starting yarn is I like to weave it in to the hat. You could use a tapestry needle or a darning needle, which is just a big sewing needle, and then you would thread it through. But I like to just use my crochet hook. There's no real specific way to weave in the end, but I like to first go through maybe 1 or 2 of the first stitches. We're basically just trying to hide this tail without cutting it off too short. So I'm going to weave it through the first couple stitches of that starting row. But then I always am nervous that it's going to come undone a little bit. So I'm going to turn the hat inside out. And this is how you finish every project, basically. You always have to weave in some ends at the end of your project. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Now I'm basically just going to go up the stitches. So insert my hook through a random stitch, put the yarn over, and pull it all the way through. Just like I'm sewing almost, except pulling it with the crochet hook. I'm going to go up so it feels nice and snug, sort of in between the stitches. Because I do it just sort of randomly. Sometimes I'll find some tight spots, but as long as in the end you can't see that end going through, so it just sort of blends into the color of the hat. Through one more maybe. And once you feel like you've gone through enough stitches that it's not going to unravel, you just take your scissors and cut that nice and short, and just throw out this little end here. Okay, and now I've woven it through enough stitches just around here, and now I'm going to take my scissors and cut that nice and short. That will be thrown away or used for something else. Then I'll turn it back the right way. And there you go. I've got a nice little hat here to fit onto a baby's head. I don't have a baby to model it for you, but I do have this convenient baby-sized container. So there I have my baby head. I think it fits quite well. I measured this, so it is the right size for a newborn baby's head. But of course, like I said, you can make it smaller or bigger. And of course, here your yarn and your hook choice will affect the size of the finished product as well. There's so many different ways to make a hat. You could also make a hat starting from the top down to the front. And you'll see you can make it with single crochet or double crochet. But now I think you've gained the skills in order to crochet around in a circle, or in the round as we call it. And you know how to decrease stitches. So if you ever see instructions that call for decreasing stitches, now you know that just means crochet 2 together. You can do the same technique with single crochet 2 together as well as double crochet 2 together. And yeah, there you have it. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Welcome back to my crochet tutorial. In this video, we will learn a new crochet stitch, the triple crochet stitch, or sometimes called the treble crochet stitch. This stitch is much less common than the single or double crochet stitch, but it is helpful to know for making big loose stitches. Here we have our single crochet sample and our double crochet sample. And here I have my triple crochet sample. These all represent the first 3 rows of the stitch. You can see that this sample has much taller stitches than even double crochet, and it has very large gaps in between the stitches. A piece made entirely out of triple crochet will be very loose and flowy, and as you can see, there will be holes in between the stitches. Let's get started making our stitches. Here I have a chain of 25 stitches. Because triple crochet takes up so much more space than the other stitches, this time we're going to start on the 5th loop in the chain. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we are. So to start, this time we pull the yarn over the hook twice, which will give us 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to insert our hook from the front to the back of that 5th loop, which gives us 4 loops on the hook. Then we yarn over, giving us 5 loops on the hook, and then we pull it through that first loop, bringing us back to 4 loops on the hook. Then we yarn over again, giving us 5 loops. Then you're going to pull through the first 2 loops, giving us 3 loops again, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now we just have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over last time, and pull through the last 2 loops. And that's 1 triple crochet stitch. So now we'll continue going into the next stitch in the chain. So we yarn over twice, go from the front to the back of the stitch, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over again, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, and pull through the last 2 loops. The next one, yarn over twice, insert into the next stitch, yarn over once, pull through 1 stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through 2 stitches, yarn over, last 2 stitches. Yarn over twice, insert into the next stitch, yarn over once, pull through 1 stitch, 1 loop, yarn over, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. There's your first 4 stitches plus your starting chain here, which this time we will count as a stitch. Let's finish up the row here. And here we are at our last stitch. So let's yarn over twice, insert into that last stitch there, yarn over again, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops. And there we are at the end of our first row. So let's go back and count our stitches. As you can see, they're much easier to count because each stitch is so distinct with so much space in between. So this time, let's count our first chain, our first 4 chains as 1 stitch, because I think it looks a little strange if you don't. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 stitches. So that's fine, that matches up with our initial chain. And we'll just want to make sure that in our next row, we also end up with 20 stitches. So at the end of this row, we need to bring the yarn up in order to work our next row. And because triple crochet takes up so much more space, this time we're going to chain 4 stitches at the end of the row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we can turn around, and again, this will count as our first stitch. So instead of going into this first stitch in the row, we're going to start in the second stitch. So here we are, let's start again with this row. Remember, yarn over twice, insert underneath that V that we formed there, yarn over, pull through that stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops. That's your first stitch, and you can see you can count that first first 4 chains as a stitch. So again, now let's yarn over twice, insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, through 2 stitches, yarn over, through 2, yarn over, through 2. Okay, let's finish this row again. And there we have our first 2 rows of triple crochet. So remember at the end to go back and count all of your stitches to make sure that you have the correct number in each row. So next time you can join me and we will learn the half double crochet. Thank you so much and see you next time. Welcome back to my crochet tutorial. In this video, we will learn another crochet stitch, the half double crochet stitch. Here we have our single crochet sample. Here I have my double crochet sample. And here I have my triple crochet sample that we have made in previous videos. And here is my half double crochet sample. Just like the name of the stitch suggests, the height of this stitch is in between that of the single crochet stitches and the double crochet stitches. A piece made out of half double crochet will not have very large gaps in between the stitches, but will also not be quite as dense as a single crochet fabric. That's why I like it as a nice middle ground in between single crochet and double crochet. Let's get started making our stitches. Here I have a chain of 20 stitches. This time we're going to start working in the second chain of the row. So to begin our half double crochet stitch, first you bring the yarn over the hook to have 2 loops on the hook. Then we insert the hook from the front to the back of the stitch to have 3 loops on the hook. Then we bring the yarn over again, bringing us up to 4 loops on the hook. And then we're going to pull that through the first loop. So back to 3 loops on the hook. Then we'll do another yarn over the hook to bring us back up to 4 loops. And this time we're going to pull this last yarn over through all 3 loops on the hook to finish up the half double crochet. And that's it. So let's do this again. Yarn over the hook. Insert the hook from the front to the back of the stitch for 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over the hook again to 4 loops on the hook. Pull it through 1 loop, back to 3. Yarn over, back to 4 loops, and pull through all 3 loops. Let's do this one more time. So yarn over the hook. Insert the hook from front to back of the stitch, yarn over the hook, pull through 1 loop, yarn over the hook, pull through 3 loops. Now let's finish up the row. And here we are at the last stitch of the row. So I'll show you one more time. Bring the yarn over the hook, insert from the front to the back of the stitch, yarn over the hook again, pull it through that stitch, yarn over again, and pull that loop through the last 3 loops. And there you are to finish your first row. So again, to bring it at the end of the row, we need to bring the yarn up to the height of the next row. So this time for half double crochet, we chain 2 stitches at the end of the row before we turn it. So we chain 1 and chain 2. Now we can turn our work around. And remember, we're going to be working into each of these V's at the top of every stitch. So we bring our yarn over the hook, go into the first stitch here, yarn over, and pull it through, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. Yarn over the hook, from the front to the back of the next stitch, yarn over the hook, through that stitch, yarn over, and through all of the loops. Yarn over, front to back of the stitch, yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, and through all 3 loops. Once again, let's finish up this row. And here we are once again at the last stitch of the row. So I'll show you once again. Here's the last stitch. We yarn over the hook, insert from the front to the back of that stitch, yarn over, pull through back through the stitch, yarn over the hook, and through all 3 loops. And there you have it. Once again, remember to count all of your stitches in every row to make sure that you have the correct number until you get the hang of it, and you can make sure to have a consistent row every time of your stitches. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. In this tutorial, we will learn how to crochet a circular coaster. It is made entirely out of half double crochet. Through this simple project, you will gain new skills that you will need to use for plenty of different patterns. In particular, you will learn how to start out creating a flat circle shape and how to increase the number of stitches in a row. You will also be able to practice your half double crochet stitches. Let's get started. We're going to make our coaster from the inside of the circle to the outside. To start the inside of the circle, we need to start by making a slip stitch, inserting our needle, and this time we're going to chain just 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to chain this last stitch to the first one, creating a little circle of chains. So let's insert our hook to the first stitch, first chain, yarn over, and pull through both of those loops. Now we're going to create multiple stitches into the middle of this little circle. You can find the middle of the circle here, in between all of the chains. If you don't like the look of the finished product with a little bit of a circle, a little bit of a hole in the middle, you can start with just 3 chains and crochet into the middle. But I think it's easier for this video for you to see if we start with 4 chains. So we're going to start with 2 chains, 1, 2, for the beginning of our round. And then we're going to make 9 more half double crochet stitches into the middle of these chains. So that will give us 10 stitches total, including these initial 2. Let's do half double crochet right into the middle there. That's 1. 2. We're doing it all into the middle of this chain, so we're going to go all the way around. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now I've lost track. Did I count the first chains? I don't know. You probably did. Let's count. So remember, we count the V's on top as a stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So we have all 10 of our initial stitches. We'll let this tail hang off now. And in order to finish this round, we're going to slip stitch to the beginning chains that we made. So insert into the last of those chain 2s, and then yarn over and through that loop. And now we've finished our first round. So you can see now that there will be a little bit of a hole in the middle, which I think looks fine for a coaster. But if you want a smaller hole, you just start with 3 chains instead of 4. So to start our next round, we're going to chain 2 again to bring us up to the next round level. 1, 2. So when we're making a circle, we want it to lay flat as it goes out. We don't want it to curve up like a bowl or like our hat did in our previous project. So this means we have to increase the number of stitches that we have in every single row around. To increase the number of stitches, we will simply make two stitches into the same space. So in this first round of increases, we're going to increase in every single stitch around. That means that for every stitch of the previous row, we're going to make 2 half double crochets. So let's start. So you can see the first stitch is here. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets here. 1, and then into the same space, 2. And the next one, do 2 half double crochets into the same space. This is called an increase. An increase just means 2 stitches in one stitch space from the previous row. So next one, half double crochet, half double crochet, and again, and we'll do this all the way around until we're finished the round. So here we are at the end of the round. Because we increased in every single stitch around and we started with 10 stitches, we should now have 20 stitches. So let's just count before we finish up our last stitches to make sure that it's going to be correct. So remember, we're counting the V's on top of the stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's perfect because we're going to do 2 half double crochets into this last stitch here. That's 1 half double crochet and 2. And then we'll end the round by slip stitching to those beginning chains that we did. And there you've completed your second round. So to start our next one, we're going to chain 2 again. 1, 2. And now we can do our third round. So because we increased by 10 stitches in our second round by increasing in every single stitch, we want to increase by the same number in every single round that we're doing in order for the circle to lay flat on a surface. So we want to increase by 10 stitches. So all we're going to do is stagger our increases to every second stitch space. So we're going to do 1 normal half double crochet, and then we're going to do an increase, that is 2 half double crochets in the same space. And then we'll do 1 normal half double crochet and then an increase in the next space. So let's do this. So that's 1 half double crochet in our first space, and then we're going to do an increase. So 2 half double crochets in the next space. And then 1 half double crochet, normal one. And then 2 half double crochets in the next space. And then 1 half double crochet. And then 2 in the next space. And we're going to continue to do this all the way around this round. So here we are at the end of this round. We're just going to do our last half double crochet increase. So that's 1 half double crochet and another one. So at the end of this round, because we increased by 10 stitches again, we should have 30 stitches to end. So let's slip into those beginning chain stitches, and then we've completed our 3rd round. And now we can start our 4th round by chain 2. So now we want to increase by 10 stitches again. So we're going to stagger our stitches, our increased stitches, 1 more. So we're going to do 2 normal half double crochet and then an increase. Half double crochet into the same space. Then 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochet, and then into the increase space. So let's get started with this. We'll do 1 half double crochet into the first space and 2 half double crochet and then an increase. Eventually you won't have to count too carefully your stitches, because you'll begin to notice that every single round we're increasing into the same spaces. So you'll start to recognize what the increased space looks like. You can see here this is an increased space. It has 2 stitches in the previous row very close together, as opposed to these 2 stitches that are far apart from each other. So you can see this is an increased space. So you'll increase in between those 2 stitches. But this is not an increased space because these stitches are far apart. But for now, you can just continue counting. So we're doing, in this round, we're doing 2 normal half double crochet into their own spaces, and then an increase in the same space. 1, 2. And then a normal half double crochet, second normal half double crochet, and then increase half double crochet. 1, 2 into the same space. And then 2 normal half double crochet. Oops, sorry. And then an increase. And we're going to continue this way all the way around. And here we are at the last increase of this round. So we're going to increase into this, 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochet. And at the end of this round, we should have 40 stitches. Let's finish it off by slip stitching together. And there we are. So I think I'm going to do 1 more row in order to make it the size of the coaster that I would like. But you could always end it here or make it a little bit longer if you want by continuing to stagger your stitches 1 more increase at a time. So let's chain 2 to begin our next round. And in this one, to continue with the pattern we've been doing, we're going to make 3 normal half double crochet and then an increase. And we're going to do that all the way around. 3 half double crochet, then 1 increase, to increase by 10 stitches around, ending us with 50 stitches total. So let's start 1 half double crochet into the first stitch, 2, 3, and then an increase. So 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochet, 3 half double crochet, and then an increase. One, two, three, and increase. And we're going to continue this pattern all the way around until the end, and I'll show you how to finish off the project. And here we are at the last increase stitch. So we're going to do two last half double crochet in here, and two, and then slip this together with the first chain, and there, now we have our completed coaster. So to finish our project off, let's take some scissors, snip that end off, and we're going to pull it through that loop so that it won't come undone again. So now we need to weave in our ends. So I'm going to start just by weaving this one in with my crochet hook. And I'm going to start by weaving it in and out of the first few stitches in the round, just underneath those V's. So you can't see it at all. We're just hiding this tail here. And then I'll take it in on the underside of the coaster. I'm going to do it through a few stitches on the inside. Just going down the rows here. All we're doing is just trying to hide this tail a little bit and make sure it won't come undone when we cut it short. The more stitches you weave it through, the more secure it'll be. But I think that's enough for this one. So we'll just take our scissors again and cut them nice and short. And we'll do the same with the beginning tail here. I'll just weave it through a few stitches going around in the circle. Okay, and now we'll snip this one nice and short again. We'll throw that out. And there you have your coaster. Sits nice and flat, I think, and I have one of my favorite mugs to make sure that it's the right size here. Yep, you'll see it sticks out all the way around the side. And there you have it. Your coasters. You can make a set of these. They'll go very nicely together if you make a few of them. You could even make them in all different colors for your guests, for your home. And there you have it. So now you know how to increase stitches whenever a pattern refers to increase stitches. And now you can make a flat circle as well as your squares and your cylinder shapes. I'll see you in our next video. Thank you. Welcome back to my crochet tutorials. In this video, you will learn one example of a classic technique, the granny square. We will make a square similar to this one here. If you look closely at the stitches, you will see that it is only made using double crochet and chain stitches. There are many variations of the granny square technique, but this one here is made using small clusters of 3 double crochet stitches with chain stitches in between to space them out. These squares are quick to make up and can be stitched together to make great blankets with a classic look. You can make it in all different varieties of colors and thicknesses of yarns and crochet hooks to make different size squares. Let's get started. The beginning of our granny square is the same as the beginning of the circular coasters that we have already made in the previous video. We will start by making 4 chain stitches and then join them together, creating a little ring of chains. So first we start with a slip knot. Slip knot, insert our hook, and then we're going to make 4 chain stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to join these together by inserting our hook into the first stitch, first chain that we made, pulling the yarn over and pulling the yarn through both of those loops. So now we have a space with 4 chains in a loop so that we can crochet into the center of the loop here. So next we're going to chain 2, which we will count as our first double crochet. 1, 2. And now we're going to make 2 double crochets into the center of our ring here. 1 double crochet and another one. And so together, these first 2 chains and 2 double crochet makes our first cluster of 3 double crochet stitches. You will understand what this means as we go along. Let's just follow along and make our next cluster. So to separate it, we make 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to make 3 more double crochet into the same center loop. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, always working into the same center ring. 3 double crochet there. And now you can see that we have 2 clusters of 3 double crochet. So let's do 3 chains again. 1, 2, 3. And then 3 more double crochet into the center. 1, 2, 3. And again, we're going to make 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. Let's move this tail out of the way. And then 3 double crochets into the same loop, the same center ring for the last time. 1, 2, 3. Now I've almost finished this round. We're just going to make 3 more chains. 1, 2, 3. And then join it together to our beginning chains that we made by inserting our hook into that beginning chain, yarn over, and pull through both loops. So now we've completed our first round. So now you can understand a little bit more of what we've done. So working into our middle loop there, we have made 4 clusters of 3 double crochet each. And each of these 3 chains in between will act as the corners of our square as we go out, as we create our next round. So let's start our next round. So to begin our next round, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And that will count as our first double crochet. So now we need to to complete the cluster of 3 double crochets, we must make 2 more double crochet. In this project, we're always going to be working into the chain stitches that we made in the previous round, rather than into the double crochet stitches as we usually do. So we're going to make 2 more double crochet into this first chain space. So working into that chain space there, make 1 more double crochet, and then another double crochet. So now we're going to chain 1 to bring us over to the next chain space, because we're only working into this chain space, not into the middle double crochets. So now we're going to make 3 double crochets into this chain corner space here. Let's do 1, 2, 3. And now, because we're working into corner, this will make sense later, but because we're working into corner, we will now chain 3 to create the corner space. So we chain 1, 2, 3. So as we're going around, we will have side spaces in which we only chain 1, and then we have corner spaces in which we chain 3. So now we're beginning on this side of the square. So now we want to make 3 more double crochet into this same corner space. So we do 1, 2, 3. And now we have to create the side space, so we just chain 1 so that we can skip over this cluster from the previous row. And now we're going to make 3 more double crochet into the next corner. Sorry. 1 double crochet, 2, 3. And now we're at the corner, so we're going to make a corner space by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we're working into the same corner space. We're going to do 3 more double crochet into the same space. 1, 2, 3. And now we're in the side space again, so we just chain 1. Now we're in the corner, so we'll make a cluster of 3. 1, 2, 3, all into the same space. So now we're chaining to create the corner. Make 3, 1, 2, 3 chains, and now 3 double crochet into the same space. 1 double crochet, 2, and 3. Now we're on the last side here, so we're gonna chain 1 to bring us over to the corner. We already finished that side of the corner, so all we're missing is a cluster of 3 double crochets into this corner space. 1, 2, 3. Now to complete it, we're going to finish off this corner by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to slip into this beginning chain. So insert your hook into the beginning chain, yarn over, and pull through both the loops. And now we've completed our second round. So now hopefully you're starting to understand the pattern that we have here. So we're creating clusters of 3 double crochet, and when you work into the side spaces, you're slipping 1 stitch in between the clusters, and then when you get to a corner, you want to make a cluster of 3 double crochet, and then chain 3, and then another cluster of 3 double crochet. Now let's start our next row, which I believe will be our last round for this square. So to start the round, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and again we're starting in this space in the corner. So we're going to double crochet 2 more to finish our first cluster. And there's a cluster of 3 double crochet. So now we're working along this side here. So we're going to chain 1 to bring us over into this next chain space here. And now we're going to make 3 double crochet into the next chain space. It's 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now we'll skip this next cluster by chain 1 to bring us over to the corner. So now in this corner we're going to make a cluster of 3 double crochet, and then chain 3 to create the corner, and then another cluster of 3 double crochet on the other side. So let's do 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and then chain 3 to create the corner. 1, 2, 3, and now we're on the other side of the corner. Let's make another 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. And now we're on the next side. So we'll chain 1 to bring us over to the next space. And now we do 3 double crochet into this next space. 1, 2, 3. You can see sometimes granny squares are much easier than just regular double crochet square crocheting, because we're always working into these nice big gaps in between. So now we want to get over to our next corner. So we chain 1, and now let's do 3 double crochet into the corner. 1, 2, 3, and now we chain 3 to create the corner space. 1, 2, 3, and now 3 double crochets into that same space. 1, 2, 3, and now chain 1 to get to the next space, and 3 double crochet into the next chain space. 1, 2, 3. And now chain 1 to get over to the next space, and 3 more double crochet in the corner. 1, 2, 3. And now creating the corner with 3 chains, 1, 2, 3. And now 3 more crochet, double crochet into the corner. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to chain 1 to bring us over to the next chain space. And now we do 3 double crochet into that space there. 1, 2, 3. 1 more chain. And then into this last corner, we'll do 3 more double crochet, make our last cluster. 1, 2, 3. And now to end this row, we make 3 chains. And then we're going to slip it to the beginning chains there. Yarn over and put it through both of these stitches. There we go. And there we have our granny square that we've made. I'm just going to cut this thread and pull it through. And then we're going to weave in the ends through the back, weave in this end and this end. And then when we're finished, we'll have something that looks quite a lot like this. If you want it to be a little bit bigger, you could always keep going around and making it bigger and bigger. You could even make an entire blanket or something just out of one granny square that grows bigger and bigger, as long as you remember to do clusters of 3 double crochet into each chain space in the edge, and then in the corner to chain 3. And you can just continue that pattern, and each round will get bigger and bigger as you go along. And then once you're finished, if you want to have lots of little ones, you can join them together in a contrasting color to make a blanket. Or you could leave them as is. You can even use these as great square coasters, and there's many things you can make out of this simple granny square technique. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you again soon. Welcome back to my crochet tutorial series. In all of our videos so far, we have only crocheted using one color. But what if you want to use more than one color and make stripes in your work? In this video, I'm going to show you how to change colors at the end of a crochet row and begin working with a new color. So here I have a sample piece that I've been working on. This is in double crochet, but you can use this technique for any other stitch as well. So I've decided that I want to change colors at the end of this row, and in my next row, begin working with a new color. So what I will do is I work all the way up until the last stitch. So I just have one more double crochet. And here I am at the last stitch in the row. So what I do is make half of a double crochet. So I yarn over, insert my hook from front to back, yarn over again, pull it through the loop, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, and here I am with 2 loops on the hook. So here I'm going to stop, and I'm going to pick up a new color of yarn. And what I'll do with this new color, I'll make a loop and pinch it with my thumb and forefinger, just like this, leaving a little bit of a tail. I'm not tying a slip knot, I'm just holding it together like this. And then, instead of doing my yarn over in my old color, I'll put this loop over my hook and pull that loop through the 2 loops of the previous color. So as you can see, now I have the new color on my hook. So next what I will do is I want to take the old yarn that I'm not going to be working with, the old color, and I'll snip it with a little bit of a tail, maybe a few inches long. And now I should have my old tail, the tail of my old yarn, the tail of the yarn that I just started, and the yarn attached to the ball that I will be working from. So to make this look more seamless, we want to pull on both of the tails to tighten it up a little bit. And now I'm ready to begin on my next row. So to begin my next row, I'm going to chain 2 in my new color and turn my work. So now to deal with these tails, I could just begin crocheting this new row with my new color and then weave in these tails at the end, just like we do with the starting tail. But I want to show you a technique so you can pull your tails through and you don't have to sew them in, especially if you're doing rows of different colors. If you're doing stripes every row, it will be very tiresome to weave in these ends every row. So what you're going to do, you're going to hold your yarn and your hook just like you normally do, but you're also going to pick up both of your tails and lay it along your work just like this. So now when you work, we're going to be making our stitches over these 2 tails and pull them through this row. So let me show you how to start. We'll yarn over and then making sure the tails are in between your work. You're going to go into the first stitch and around them and then finish off the double crochet stitch. And then we're going to do the next one, still working all the way around these tails. And every single stitch, you can see that we're pulling them through. And they do end up blending in quite seamlessly because they're the same color as both of the rows. And you can sort of pull them tighter to adjust the tension, but don't want to pull them too tight. You don't want it to pull your work too tight. And we'll continue like that for a few stitches. And then after maybe 5 stitches, I'll drop these tails to the back of my work, and I'm not going to work into them anymore. Rather, I'm just going to work into my normal work. And then you can go back. You can see on the back, you see these tails sticking out. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them nice and short. Here we are. And pull them through a little bit. And then you can't even see those tails. And we'll finish up this row. In fact, I'll show you how to change back to the first color again. It's the exact same process, but just so you can see it one more time. So remember, here we are on the last stitch of the row. So we're going to go yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over again, pull it through, yarn over, and pull it through 2 stitches, and then we pause here, find our next color with a bit of a tail, pinch it between your thumb and your forefinger, over the hook and through. Then I'll cut this old tail, this old color that we're switching from. pull these tight. Chain 2 with the new color. And then we're ready for our next row. And we can pull, oops, sorry. Again, we can pull the tails through so that we can disguise them into the body of our work. Let's do a few stitches. Remember, I'm pulling these tails through my work so they come out through every single stitch. And when we're ready, we drop them, do a couple more stitches, and then flip it over and cut those tails off. And there you have it. You could just continue like this, doing as many rows as you want in each color. And that's how you switch colors between the rows. If you have worked your way through all of the videos in this tutorial series, you now have a pretty good grasp on the fundamentals of crocheting. If you keep practicing these skills, you should be able to create unique and practical pieces in no time. In order to make new projects, you will probably want to find inspiration online and then follow written instructions from other crochet designers. In this video, I'm going to summarize each of the projects that we have completed in this series, and I will give you some basic instructions going forward that will help you to follow written patterns. I will also give you some websites that will help you to find inspiration and get connected with fellow fiber crafters. When you find a written crochet pattern that you like, you will notice that it is written using lots of abbreviations, which makes reading a pattern a pretty intimidating experience at first. Here, I will go through some common abbreviations for the techniques that you have already learned, so that when you find a pattern online that you like, you will have an easier time reading it and understanding it. In our first video, we started by learning some fundamentals. We learned how to make a slip knot, and we learned how to make chain stitches. In a written pattern, chain stitches are commonly abbreviated to CH. In our second video, we learned how to make the single crochet stitch. In a written pattern, this stitch will be abbreviated as SC. In our third video, we learned how to make the double crochet stitch. In a pattern, this stitch will be abbreviated as DC. Then, using our double crochet stitches, we learned how to make a hat like this one. In this hat, we learned how to decrease stitches, which is often abbreviated as DEC for decrease. We also used our double crochet stitches to make a granny square. Then we learned how to make a triple or treble crochet stitch. This stitch is often abbreviated as TC in patterns. Finally, we learned how to make the half double crochet stitch. In a pattern, this stitch will be abbreviated as HDC. Using our half double crochet stitch, we also learned how to make this coaster. This allowed us to increase stitches, which is often abbreviated as INC for increase. Some other common abbreviations that you might see in a written pattern are BEG for beginning, CL for cluster, CONT for continue, REP for repeat, SK for skip, SP for space, meaning the space where you create your stitches, ST for stitch, and YO, which means yarn over, as in putting your yarn over the hook. Many patterns that you find will have a short list of abbreviations near the top of the written instructions, especially if they use less common ones. You could also always find a list of abbreviations through Google or any other knitting blog or website. So where do we go when we want to find patterns and ideas for crochet? You could do a search on Google or another search engine, or a website like Pinterest to find ideas. But my favorite website for all things crochet and knitting is Ravelry.com. On this website, you can search for patterns using different criteria. You can read and post on the forums, and you can befriend other crafters who will provide endless ideas and inspiration. There are countless ways to make use of Ravelry, so I recommend making an account and clicking around to see what you can find there. I'm not paid to talk about Ravelry, but I just personally find it to be the most useful website for all things crochet related, and I think it's a good resource to know about when learning how to crochet. If you would like to see examples of my personal work, please have a look at my personal portfolio at yaelsknits.wordpress.com. Hopefully you will also be able to find some inspiration there and see what I've gotten up to over the last few years of crocheting. Thank you so much for watching my video tutorials. I hope you've found them useful, and we'll see you in our next series. Thank you.